Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Academy. My name is Tom Scarta, and I am the host of the Franchise Academy and also the founder of the Franchise Academy and a franchise advisor and coach. And what I do on a regular basis is match people with franchise opportunities based on skills and personality, kind of like the eHarmony of business is what I like to call it. And I help people that are frustrated with their career, people that cringe at the thought of going to work in the morning, and people that just have been sitting home because of COVID and kind of feeling that they got that taste of freedom and they don't want to go back to that corporate rat race. So we help people with that. Today, I have a good friend of mine who works with me at Franchise, doing the same thing and helping people all over the country find franchises. And his name is Giuseppe Grammatico. So Giuseppe is a franchise veteran, a coach, an author, speaker, consultant, and his forte is simplifying the process of franchising, and he really excels at guiding his candidates to the business model that best suits their desired lifestyle. His greatest joy is helping people realize the American dream and share the freedom that comes with owning a franchise. So he's also the author of Franchise Freedom, a new manifesto for your financial and time freedom. Love that title. And also the author of his own podcast called Franchise Freedom. And Giuseppe says, freedom favors the bold. I really love that. Those bold enough to take action on their goals are the ones that realize the freedom boldness can deliver. And that is a quote from Giuseppe, who I like to call G for short. So G, welcome to the Franchise Academy.
Tom, thanks for having me. I know that my name is a mouthful. So GG, whatever, G square. I've been called worse, right? Excited to be here. I know we've been talking about this for a while. So thanks for having me today.
Yeah, no, this is a pleasure and an honor to have a veteran like you on the show. This is really great stuff. So love the podcast. Congratulations on the new book. It's a great little read that people could pick up. And while I'm thinking about it, is it on Amazon or do people have to directly contact you for the book?
It's on Amazon, Franchise Freedom. I have a copy here. You can, go to we'll talk at the end of the show. We go right to the website and GG, the franchise guide, and there's a book tab. But yeah, happy to send it out to you, email it out. It's a quick 30-minute read.
Cool. So GG, the franchise guide.
Yeah, GUIDE.com. Yep. Okay,
cool. Well, cool, man. It's great having you.
Yeah.
And so I have questions here that I want to ask. Well, interject. I mean, this is just kind of us having fun.
Yeah.
So you're a franchise consultant, but prior to that, you've actually owned and operated franchises. Is that right?
Yep. I've owned some franchise, both non-franchise and franchises. So I kind of had the experience on both sides, which has been fun.
Yeah. Big differences on both sides, right?
Absolutely.
And having owned franchises and non-franchises myself, I feel that a franchise is a business with training wheels.
And, yes. I like that. I like that.
Much easier way to scale. I think that one thing that people notice when they start looking at franchising is that there's really, in a lot of cases, not a tall barrier to entry. But there is a tall barrier to scalability. Mm-hmm. So a great franchise teaches you how to scale and grow something big, where if you're just a mom and pop, you don't know, let alone how to run a business. You know your task, but you don't know really how to grow a business, let alone scale it, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of benefits there. And I will say one other thing, talking to a few business coaches, you have a business plan in a lot of these startups and they say that's the barrier right there. People don't get past that business plan. So 10 years sitting on that Word document on your laptop, on your Dell, just kind of sitting there and doesn't go anywhere. So I always say this could be, a franchise could be a stepping stone into your future businesses, into your enterprise, into your empire. So
that is so true. Because I feel what I have found going through owning a franchise is that it's kind of like getting an MBA, but hands-on. Mm-hmm. you learn everything about business, and then you can apply that really to anywhere, anything you want to do.
It almost doesn't matter what business it's in, right? I mean, you have the same, you have the hiring, the firing, the account receivable, payable, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the marketing. So absolutely, they should maybe change that up a little bit. Buy a franchise instead of an MBA.
And there's some people that do talk that.
Right.
They're thinking of Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. He does something that he calls the something MBA. I forget now. I wish I remembered it.
Yes, I do. I follow him as well, and I can't remember it as well.
Yeah.
But,
so what he says is, instead of taking, $50,000 or $200,000 that's going to cost you for your MBA, take that and sink it into a business,
right,
and you'll learn even more than you would have learned from the MBA, and you actually might make money. But he says, don't even think about making money. That's not the reason to do it. Know that you're going to lose that money, but you're going to get an education that you really can't buy anywhere else. And I feel wholeheartedly with that. With a franchise, I think it's a little bit of a better bet because you're buying into something established.
Right. You have that proven system. And I will say, someone who has their MBA, very, very proud of getting that. Absolutely. What did I learn in running a business? There really wasn't. There was some really good stuff there. The marketing, there wasn't even social media back then, right? The internet was just taking off. So we didn't talk about social media and everything. So, proud of the MBA, but yes, I think the most I got out of it was the connections. It was an executive MBA program. So the people in the program that work for companies that were able to give me kind of firsthand advice into the real world, which was nice. So great for connections.
That's interesting. That's so cool. So from your opinion, from your standpoint, how does somebody know if business is for them or if franchising is for them?
Yeah. I mean, I always encourage everyone to kind of take a step back and contact me. I always do an intro call with everyone to really kind of figure out, whether it's through me or on their own, is business ownership in general, right? Business ownership is simply a vehicle to get you to where you want to be. So, what are your motivations? What do you truly want? With time and financial freedom, which is what I talk about in the book and on the show. And how do you get there? How do you achieve that time and financial freedom? So what I do is I like to lay it all out and just say, no one wants a business. They need a business for that. So what does it look like? So I talk about my story. I invested in a couple franchises, and the ride wasn't easy in the very beginning, right? There's headaches, there's people not showing up, there's the learning curve from never owning a business, but kind of setting the expectation of what it truly is. And yes, it is a business. Yes, you are investing money. There's always a risk there, but really kind of setting the expectation level and what I call level the playing field, giving you that information so you have a better chance of success making that educated decision. And then, we get past, all right, business ownership may be that vehicle. So then we split it. Which avenue do we want to go? Do we want to go traditional startup, or do you want a system in place? As you talked about, on this show, I'll steal this from you, the business on training wheels. And what do you want? I work with a business coach, and the business coach said, you definitely are entrepreneurial material, but you want that business set up so you can run with it. Other people, they like to start it from scratch and create everything, the product or service, the name, and that's fine. Franchising is not the best avenue for everyone. It's phenomenal. It gives you what I coined the phrase, or at least I thought I did, the unfair advantage to starting a business, but it's not always the right fit for everyone. Just to be clear in what I say on all my calls.
Absolutely. And as you go deeper into it, I share with folks that work with us, people in franchise, is that when you go through the process, or even at just first phone call, you're talking about one of three things is going to be the result. One is you'll figure out franchising is not for you.
Yes.
That's cool. The second thing is that, somebody like us could see where you're going to fail and why you might fail.
Right. And
you have to be okay with hearing that, hey, you're not a fit, buddy. You should keep your job. Yeah. That's important. And then the third thing is that we find people the perfect franchise and they dive in and build it and live happily ever after, which is, very satisfying for everybody. But people don't believe me, but it's very satisfying to help people not buy a franchise and save their life savings as well, whether they realize it or not.
It's funny you say that, because in some cases when I tell people, you know what, I don't think business ownership is the right fit. You were laid off from the job. The grass isn't always greener by owning a business. And yeah, to your point, very honest, very candid, conversations with people, and tell them it's may not be the right fit. And they say, well, aren't you, getting paid on this? Isn't that how you make your money? And I said, I do the right thing always. And if franchising is the right fit, great. If not, I'm going to be extremely honest. And yeah, to your point, it's we help you make that decision. We kind of get rid of the overwhelm, the anxiety, because there's so much information online. Podcasts are free, right? There's book giveaways. You have all this info, but what the hell do I do with all this information? So we try to kind of coach you through the process, break it down, and to your point, we help in the best avenue for you at this given time. Maybe things will change down the road if you have more money to invest, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we're always looking out for the well-being of anyone we work with, and it's a big decision next to owning a home, right? I mean, what do you tell people as far as investments on a business?
It's the business is probably going to be as much or more than a home in some cases.
Right.
But the thing that really people need to understand is that when you're buying a home, as big as it is, and you're writing a check for a down payment, could be six figures. When you leave that closing for that home, you could go to that home and you could start painting it or moving in furniture or whatever the same day.
Right.
In a franchise, you're writing a check for a franchise fee that's equal to a down payment on a home, but you got nothing to show for it because now you got to build it.
Right.
And that is where a lot of people have a problem. You got to have some trust and faith in yourself and the franchisor to make that leap. And it's not an easy one to make. And that's where most people kind of fall off the wagon. They're just like, you know what, I am not doing it. I'll go back to work. I can't do it. And so that's the number one reason people don't buy a franchise, is just fear of the unknown. And what I like to share with people is that it's not, as you go through this process, your decision is not the decision between franchise A and franchise B. It's the decision between uncertainty or unhappiness.
Right.
Most people choose unhappiness. To your earlier point,
I agree.
You got to make money. There's two ways to do it: own a business or have a job. And a job is just, whatever it is just a vehicle to get you what you want in life. Typically, a job is going to get you the basics: shelter, roof over your head, and food. Pay your bills. That's it. A business is a lifestyle.
Right.
And you're building something that hopefully you're going to sell for a lot more than what you paid for it. And it's going to afford you things that you just couldn't do in your life if you were, in a job, because you only get a few weeks vacation. A business gives you flexibility, a lifestyle. Yep. So I think success is not just a business that makes money. It's a business that makes money, which also gives you time to enjoy the things in life.
Yeah. There was an interview with Mr. Wonderful from I'm a hardcore Shark Tank fan. Yes. And in the interview, it was a CNBC, and they talked about why is it so popular, that show, and he talks about wealth, but the true wealth is time freedom, right? So making a lot of money is great, but I know of plenty of business owners that are working 24/7. They have all the money in the world and they're miserable because they don't manage their time. They're not taking vacations. And when they are on vacation, they're not present with their family. So absolutely. I think the biggest one is time freedom. You have the time, you have the money to do what you want, but more importantly, we only have 24 hours in a day. So what are you doing during that day that's really enjoyable, that you'll really like? So that really, I downloaded that. I got to find that file, that video, but it truly struck me. Huh?
Yeah. And it's on that same interview where he said that, you could do a really great job, but you're just trading your time for money.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a ransom that they give you for your time. And it's really kind of sad when you think about it, that's the way it is. But we could talk for hours just about that topic. And it's really interesting. Growing up, so I had like my own little rich dad, poor dad story. My dad was a New York City police officer,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom's side of the family actually owned a home heating oil business. And my dad was always around because he had a lot of vacation time off.
Right.
He could do mutual switches and all that. And he said to me as a young kid that, you can have time or you can have money, but you can't have both. And I believed that, not knowing that it was actually incorrect, because he didn't know any better.
Right.
My uncles would miss holidays and all sorts of things because they worked their butt off trying to run this business. And they did well. They made a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a house up in the Pocono Mountains that they paid for, that my father enjoyed all summer long while they worked. It was crazy to think about. But once I got into franchising, I realized that you can have money and time. It's all about having the systems in place,
Right.
which is the whole basis of franchising. So I want to ask you a question about franchise consulting. In your opinion, do you think somebody needs a consultant, or could they just kind of do it on their own?
Yes, I think to do it on your own, I think will take a long time. It's overwhelming, and most people work in, basically they start in the wrong order. They look at the product or service and they go down the rabbit hole. So I think it's crucial. I think it's crucial to find a franchise consultant or coach that you click with, and that's own the business. That's actually own franchises, and that's actually run the businesses. And I think the consultant will bring a lot of experiences, be able to answer a lot of questions, bring a lot of value, so that they can really just help you, kind of expedite the process. So I always talk about reverse engineering the process, starting out with a blank slate of what you really want, as opposed to, I like Subway, so I'm going to look at restaurant, franchises, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what do you truly want? Because what I find people do is they find a specific brand they like, and they shift their values and their wants to fit that particular brand. So I always say, forget about money, forget about everything. What does your ideal life look like? What are the hours you're working? Are you at a retail location? Or jokingly, I say, are you in your pajamas logging in on your laptop and never leaving the house and running possibly a home-based business? So I tell them we work together, and I think we can speed that process up, and more importantly, figure out if franchising is even the right fit for you before we start looking at, the 4,000 plus brands out there. So I think, you find someone that you click with, that brings a lot of value to the table. And definitely there's a big benefit of working with a good consultant.
And so you use the term good consultant. How do you figure out who is a good consultant?
So, full disclosure, I invested in my first franchise through a consultant. And at the time I was mid-20s when I started my journey. So so number one, asking them their experience. How long, have you owned, franchise businesses? I think there's a lot of value that someone that's owned franchises and non-franchises. The other thing is the personality. Is it a personality fit? Right. I made one commitment when I started my businesses, and I said, you know what? I was miserable in corporate America. I'm now going to work with people I enjoy working with, and that's it. I get to choose finally who I like to work with. And, if people are very difficult to work with, I will just say, you know what, maybe this isn't the right fit. So really take the time, interview the consultant, figure out if they're a good fit personality wise, they have the experience, and kind of take it from there. And then work with that consultant, and just really, and be honest with that consultant. In order to make the process work, you need to be honest. You need to be open to suggestion and possibility. And I think that's a recipe for success in finding a great franchise.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think, a good franchise consultant makes suggestions, and then the candidate makes decisions.
Yes, correct. 100%. I completely agree with that.
So, is franchising, can you use it as an exit strategy? Is there an exit strategy for business owners in franchising?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because when I invested in my first franchise back in, when was that? 2006 going into 2007. I remember it was the biggest check I've ever written in my entire life. The amount I wrote to where the franchisor's name was supposed to be. So I had to rewrite the check because I was so nervous, if I'm completely honest. And so I had to I had to redo that. And then, yeah, I mean, I get kind of almost emotional thinking about it. There's just so much going on, but yeah, it's a huge decision. And I'm sorry, rephrase the question. I got a little excited thinking about, that experience, but
Talking about exit strategy.
Yeah. So the exit strategy. So, and when I got sidetracked there, so one of the first questions I asked was, how do I sell this? And the franchisor looked at me and he said, are you nuts? Like, you just invested in the franchise. And I think, you need to know, where you want to be, because this franchise, this may be something that you reinvest in, you renew the agreement. Maybe this is something you pass down to your children. My children are young, 10, 13, maybe they take over the business, but you have to have that in mind. What's the big picture? How long do I want to be in this business? Because that's also going to affect the growth when it comes to selling the business. Is your intention to pass it down? Is it your intention to sell it for a multiple of, 2, 3 plus? So, yeah, I mean, I think exit strategy, knowing where you want to be in 10 years, because, a lot of franchise agreements are for 10, plus 10, 15, 20 years. So you need to think about, okay, when I grow to this level, what do I want to do with the business afterwards? So, definitely encourage people to think of that, not 10 years later, but in the very beginning stages of investing in a franchise.
Yeah, amen to that. And it goes to your statement about re-engineering the process. Think with the end in mind, as they
Right.
say in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People
Mhm.
by Dr. Covey. You got to know where you want to go,
Right.
and then we could help you get there with the right franchise. So that's well said. And myself, I just got to share, since you brought it up. I also found my first franchise through a franchise consultant.
Mhm.
So the thing that you and I have that we could share with the candidate is empathy. We've been in their shoes before.
Right. Yeah,
We've done it.
absolutely.
And that's a big thing. So we really understand what's going through their mind, what's all the anxiety, all that stuff that comes up.
So
And I got into my first franchise, was a huge success. I sold it, and in 5 years I only had it, and I semi-retired at 41 years old, and then got into a second franchise by myself. I didn't
Right.
go to a consultant. I
Right.
was cocky, and I ended up crashing it and lost almost my entire life savings in that second franchise. And that's what made me a franchise expert. And I wrote a book about it called Franchise Savvy, and
Right.
that's all the wisdom in there. So that's
So you didn't use that consultant, right? You got emotional, things were good. And, yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that, because when I work with a consultant, I invested in the franchise. I also asked the consultant, he said, what did you decide? I said, I decided to move forward. And I go to him, how do you become a franchise consultant? And he goes, you haven't even opened up day one and you're asking about franchise consulting and coaching. And I said, well, the process was great. I mean, you simplified it. It wasn't as overwhelming. And there wasn't as much information online, like there is today. And he said, get a little bit of experience and then we'll have that conversation. And we kept in touch over the years, but I enjoyed the process so much and I saw so much value. And to this day, most people don't know we exist. I don't know if that's your experience, but I would say 9 out of 10 people, if I'm at a party having a conversation and they're like, I don't know what that is. We never even heard of that. I wish I had known that, because I invested in X, or I never invested in a franchise because I was too scared, or I heard, franchising of this is this versus that. So, yeah, it's pretty funny how we both ended up becoming a consultants, and I wouldn't change it. I truly love what I do, which, I'm sure is the same for yourself.
yeah. I'm doing it 16 years, so I better be liking it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Time flies.
So very cool. Just to wrap it up, Giuseppe, what's one myth about franchising, or about franchise consulting, maybe, that you could bust right here, right now?
Yeah. So it's kind of a combination, but with franchising, franchising is not an industry. I always hear the franchise industry, and yes, that's great for statistics, but Franchising is simply just a proven business model. So that the franchise is essentially a business that has been proven. There's a model, there's a system in place, and it could be in any industry, any investment level. So I know I'm kind of busting a few myths all in one kind of breath here, but they're not, franchising is not all about food. You don't need millions of dollars. There are franchises that are under six figures, well over six figures, and everything in between. So that is something I hear about all the time. I never consider franchising because I don't have $1 million. And when I talk to them about, literally, there's a franchise in porta potties, dumpsters, employment services, to the subways and the restaurants of the world. There is literally a franchise for everyone out there, every industry and investment level. And and not all franchises, and I'm sure you'll agree, are built the same, right? There's definitely franchisors with better support and systems, and I encourage people to work with Tom or myself, and truly just have a conversation. Just forget about the individual brands, but is business ownership the right fit for me, and am I franchise material? Have that conversation. Go in with an open mind, and I think that'll be one of the most valuable conversations you can have.
Amen to that. Well said. So, how could people get in touch with you in case I want to pick your brain about franchising?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So since my name, as I mentioned, is so hard to spell, so you can go right to the website. So it's GG, my initials, thefranchiseguide.com. And on there is our podcast, Franchise Freedom. You can pick up a copy of the book as well. So podcast, book, and we have a blog. You can contact me directly. I answer all my emails and phone calls. So feel free to reach out to myself, to Tom. I know Tom a long time as well. We definitely have been in your shoes, and we're here to help anyone in need of learning just a little bit more about franchising and business ownership.
Yep. No sales, no kidding. This is not a timeshare. So you might actually hear that you're not cut out for franchising.
And yes, and be prepared for that. And also one thing, if you don't mind me even bringing this up, our services, there are no fees for our services. So this is no contract, no fee, no obligation. So any questions you have, we're here to help. So you don't have to worry about fees and costs and things like that. So it's a very simple process. And yeah, I mean, can't make it a much easier call. So
that's it. You're so right. Thank you for bringing that up. Giuseppe, thanks for being on the Franchise Academy. All of Giuseppe's information, contact information, websites, and whatnot will be on the franchiseacademy.com. So check that out. And